Gerrie, can you tell me your reasons for giving this interview?
Yeah, I think those should be crystal clear from the outset. We, a group of youngsters that embarked on the exercise nearly 39 years ago, or 39 years ago to date, have always kept the code of honor and kept quiet. Now that we've reached an advanced stage in our lives, we want recognition for this. When we approached our leadership, we either got a cold shoulder, were totally ignored, or were vehemently attacked from the outset. So there is no way that there can be reconciliation between the two parties. And our main gripe is exactly that our leaders then did not keep us informed, and they now do not acknowledge us. And I can motivate this by saying we learned with shock that there was a Savannah, because I'm talking about Operation Savannah, there was a Savannah Foundation that is affiliated with the major role player, the CMBO. I forgot the abbreviation now, but it will get back to me or come back to me. This organization is affiliated with the CMBO, but they do not, even now, after 7 months when we took note of them, they do not even want to acknowledge us, the fighting forces upon whom they build their careers and legends. Because they were a bunch of egocentric officers that they were in such fierce competition amongst each other to make a better name or build a better legend amongst themselves, and to, in their old age, they're all now sitting with nice fat pensions. They don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to hear us. They refuse to acknowledge us. And for the fighting guys, me and my mates, this just doesn't wash. The time to go on record and to speak out and to correct the warp history that they, as the leadership, put forward. And they did that to hide away their very, very weak command and control. Barry, I'll put it on record, and anybody can challenge me on this. In the couple of months that I was in Angola, I wasn't exposed to one order group. So they did not even deem it fit to keep their men informed. One of the basic principles of being a military man is keep your men informed on every level. Now we find out, we're a group of about 170 people, we find out that yes, we did have infantry. Yes, we did have artillery. Yes, the parabats were there. And we didn't know about this before because we were kept in these little cocoons, never told about flanking units or formations or even troops in the same geographical area who did not wear identifiable uniforms because it was such an amateurish hush-hush operation that we had to wear prison uniforms. And so did all of the guys that went in. We couldn't take anything that identified us as South Africans. We couldn't take our personal weapons. If you wanted to take toothpaste, you had to scrape off the name and the make and made in South Africa. And it was so ludicrous. When we went in our armored cars, we were flown in to then Silverport to, I think it's now Wambo. It was so obvious that we South African. We were told to speak English. But clearly on the tires, it says Goodyear, made in South Africa. Firestone, made in South Africa. Both the makes. So who the hell they wanted to fool? I don't know. There were incidents where guys got exposed to foreign or international correspondence in the form of journalists that flew in and that tried to cover this. And it wasn't their fault. They were busy loading unserviceable equipment on the planes, the only airfield that we had, available to us at the time. And of course these guys started communicating with the journalists when they asked them questions. And how the hell do you hide away a South African accent? No, we mercenaries. No, I'm not telling you where we come from. I mean, they struggled with difficult words like E's and R. So, I think the main part of our problem at this stage is it's not our problem. I'm not even angry anymore. I'm now determined to address the situation and get it down to the T. And I'm willing to mention names and submit proof of correspondence that I had with our leaders over the past 7 months. You ask a chairman of the Savannah Foundation, how do we go about for addressing this wrong? How do we go about for addressing the lack of recognition that is seriously lacking? Not only in the form of decorations, but in the form of we were there. We were the fighting men. We did an enormous task with very little. We barely got fed. We shut ourselves to death because the rations that they deemed fit to give us were color-coded. And somebody had a macabre sense of humor in the lock chain. You knew red was meat. All the labels removed because it can't be South African. Green was supposed to be vegetables, green or blue. And blue was pudding or something like that. But the shelf date on the tins, which they could not remove, was 2 years past expiry date. We had to eat that. We were not allowed to loot. Threat of death.
That's living off the land.
Yeah. You get caught out catching a chicken or supplementing your diet with something, you were threatened you're going to be shot. As one of the first groups that went in. And I was part of Battle Group Foxbat, which was the armor squadron that got flown in from Ondongwa to Silverport to, I'm under correction, but I believe it to be the beginning of October in 1975. We were treated like crap when we went in. We were treated like absolute rubbish with the duration of the exercise. We believed in what we did. We fought like demons, and I'm talking of everybody that was involved like that. We gave these commanding officers a time to establish their legend and their careers riding on our backs. Upon our return, we were treated like absolute shit. The national servicemen. Okay, I joined permanent force upon my return. But the guys that finished their 2-year stint, because that was the time of the SADF when you could, for the first time, I'm talking 74 now, you could volunteer for 2 years service. You were supposed to get paid vast sums of money, and never thereafter would you ever be called up for any duties. You were free after you've done your 2 years. Now these guys completed their 2 years. When we left, we had to go and dump our kit because we could take no personal belongings. We had to go and dump our kit in a bungalow that was supposed to be guarded, and upon our return we would get our kit back. At the stage, everybody was involved in Savannah, so there was no control over this kit, this forgotten kit. So there were break-ins, things like your firearm, a controlled item, just got stolen. All your personal belongings got stolen. All your military equipment that you grow quite fond of got stolen. When these guys came back, they were held away from the new intake because we were not supposed to be able to communicate to them. We were dirty, filthy. You had one set of clothes. So maybe there's a bit of logic in this. The parabats, for example, got placed under armed guard. This is how you treat people that has now laid their lives on the line for your cause. They got placed under armed guard until the time was for them to clear out, and they were basically shown the gate and chased away. Do not bother us again. At the gate, in certain instances, there will be a little clerk standing and hand you the only recognition that some of us ever got. They would hand you your proprietary with Kuneni class in a little envelope. In most cases, like mine, I never got paid my bush pay. I spent the better part of 2 full months in Angola. I never got that bush pay. When I joined permanent force, my national serviceman pay was immediately cancelled, and I had to wait for chief staff pay for 7 months before I got my first permanent force pay. Now, these are not grounds for the bitterness that exists amongst our group, because it's clearly now us and them. I'm being accused that I want to taint the image of the SADF. Bullshit. I've reached out, I've reasoned, I tried to get through to this old bunch that are very scared of their legends and their pension. There's probably more factors at play here. There's probably something like war crimes. We are still investigating that because there's a lot of rumbling amongst the rank about certain things that happen at a certain time. We played it on an initial website. This is not a place we bring the legalities in, because if I know about a crime, I'm obliged to report it to another authority. So we played that one down to a large extent, because it wasn't us that did it. It was certain individuals. I'm talking about executions, I'm talking about unnecessary shooting and things like that. I think that is what our leadership is very, very scared of. And they're vehemently denying our existence, our positive participation, and the very effective way that we tackled an overwhelming force with bugger all equipment. To state an example, we started the march westward and just rolled up the Cuban positions and Fatla positions, town after town after town. You normally use high explosive HE round for this. A armored car only takes 20 rounds, which you have to split up into high explosives and HE anti-tank, high explosive anti-tank. HE anti-tank is useless to use against personnel because it needs a hard skin for the nose fuse to detonate, and then it burns through. So it's only effective on tank. At one stage we ran out of HE, and they just told us, use, eat. How the hell can you expect that of people putting their lives on the line? We had to bounce the bloody thing in a tar road before it hits a soft-skinned vehicle and would then, if you're lucky, detonate. Without food, without mail, never got any of those. Our parents didn't know where we were. We between the ages of 16 and a half to 19, in some instances, members of our group were already joined the police force before then became a permanent force member, but they part of us. You don't touch us, because then you're looking for shit. And I have now taken in the point of view, I will do everything in my power to address this wrong. Jesus, they do not even want to acknowledge us. Why are we such a big threat? We want to put the history right. Because directly after Savannah stretched from, as I said, August to March 76. August 75 to March 76. So there were various stages of involvement. At one stage we realized we couldn't count on the rebel UNITA and we had to bring in our own white infantry. Also the leadership decided. Each and every one of these guys are precious because they are a true Savannah vet. Each and every one of these guys got treated like absolute shit by the powers that be. The gentlemen that later on became generals in the SADF and is now sitting with extremely healthy pensions, with chests full of ribbons and medals, and they deny us to just try and put the history straight. There was no command and control, as I mentioned. None. They knew that if this becomes fact, the legends that they build their career on will be past tense because nobody will ever believe them again. To what extent did they go? Oh, there was newspaper articles and huisgenoot articles about our little adventure in Savannah. But the interviews were only done with a select few. The leadership, the fighting man on the ground, was ignored to this day. And we not only been ignored, we effectively been shafted and said, you don't exist. That's why we call ourselves the forgotten soldiers. We're the ghost warriors. Nobody wants to know about us. Nobody did then. Nobody wants to know about us now. So with these interviews with the leadership, they had to lie to hide away the most basic of principles, the lack of leadership, the lack of communicating with your fighting soldiers. And I think they really scared old men. But I don't care anymore. As I said, I'm not angry anymore. I'm now determined to set the history straight. In certain instances, we seriously doubt the validity of honoris cruxes being issued to certain members because they were issued to individuals that vouch for the leadership. And you could say, no, it was good command and control. There is various brave deeds that went totally unrecorded because of this lack, this stupidity and this lack of command and control. Now, if they want me to go on record and start mentioning names about the lack of command and control, mentioning individuals, mentioning incidents by date, mentioning acts of valor, and comparing them with honoris cruxes issued, then just, we can go that route. I'm quite willing to do it. I've got all the time in the world. I don't receive a pension. I don't get my decoration. Why must I worry about these people that do not acknowledge us? There's a lot of bitterness amongst the guys, as you might imagine. These are kids that lived through trauma, that never got treated, that never got debriefed, that never got acknowledged. We do not have our place in the sun. We are now the older generation, and we're saying, enough of this, enough of the historical books that's all based on bullshit and the scheming minds of commanding officers to try and build their legend. I think I'll conclude with it there as an introduction. Okay.